Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Juan Words podcast. I'm Juan Alanis, and this is my wife Anjelica Casares.
Hi, how's it going?
There's a cable like in front, like right over your face, so I can't see what you're doing.
Oh, you can't? You gotta look at me?
Yeah.
Do you want me to move the cable?
No.
Okay.
I was just saying, because you were laughing. You did something, and then you started laughing, and I was like, I don't know what you did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't that funny anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to another episode of the Juan Words podcast. As I said before, we are glad you're back. We hope you're enjoying our podcast over the last couple of episodes, and that you enjoyed this one as well. And this one, Anjelica is going to kind of guide us on the conversation that we're going to have today. Because
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's because you were like, you're gonna guide the conversation. I was like, so that's it? You're bouncing? Like you're out?
I'm not out. I'm just like,
oh, okay.
Just kind of like, No.
No.
No,
I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't know, Juan.
No.
Juan.
So,
where's that from?
You're loopy.
Yeah, I am. Like, I've been behind the screen editing. Oh my God, I've been editing today for about 5 hours.
Yeah, so you're a little loopy now.
Yeah, I am. I'm a little. Yeah, the last edit that I was doing was for my IGTV channel. Mm-hmm. And I was doing an editing for, so you know how Mental Health Awareness Day came?
Yeah.
And I didn't even address it or anything.
World Mental Health Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't address it, and I didn't talk about it very much because I was kind of going through my own mental issue at the moment. And I had the intention to do it, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I remember I was like, hey, today's World Mental Health Day.
Yeah, I know. You kept reminding me. You did.
And you were like, yeah. I was like, okay.
She knows. No, I felt bad about it. And so I didn't want maybe feeling like I didn't want the month to pass, usually when things pass up, I just kind of shrug my shoulders and blow it off. And I'm like, it's what it is, whatever. No importa.
Well, you shouldn't feel bad. No. You shouldn't feel bad that you missed it. But I feel like, I can see what you're saying. You would have wanted to put something out.
Well, that's my whole tagline. I'm part of it. That I don't know. I've always been, since we've been on social, I've always, at some point really started to dive deep and talk about mental health. Mm-hmm. And so the day came and went, and I was going through my own issues, and I just didn't want the month to pass without me having to talk about it. And so I was hearing myself with the conversation. It was only me who I was talking about. The day I knew, or the moments leading up to the moment I knew that I needed help, and then the day that I stopped driving. Mm. And I've asked you this before. Do you remember the day I stopped driving? I remember the day very clearly. And so I started to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I started to not only talk about how it what happened, but how it happened, and what I was thinking and what I was feeling, and the physical manifestations of it, and
in the video that you're editing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I just finished editing.
Yeah.
And so I'm listening to myself, because you're editing and you hear it on repeat, and you hear it on repeat, and you hear it on repeat, and it's like, oh God, okay, because it's still things that I do to this day. It still affects me to this day very much. And so it is what it is. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm a little loopy. That's why I'm a little offbeat.
Well, I think you're just tired. That's what
I'm a little tired.
That's why I said you were loopy. Oh, okay. But your video that you're making right now, that you're editing, that you just finished editing, is mm-hmm. to touch on mental health for I guess, since you didn't mention it during World Mental Health Day?
Yeah, and I just didn't want to National Mental Health Day, and I just didn't want it to be oh, you have a problem, go seek help. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to put it out there. I really wanted to really unmask myself a little bit, and just be more than just oh, go get help. It was more yo, this is what happened, and this is how it looked like for me, and I definitely yeah, had you seen me at the moment, it would have been very strange, and I would have been one of those people where you just kind of walk away from, or that you try to ignore, or you think to yourself there's something wrong.
And it's a touchy subject, right? I mean, mental health in general, because I think it's different for everybody, and then different people have different interpretations of what it should be for because the way they experience it. Mm-hmm. then they maybe feel like if you don't experience it the same way, or you're not going through the same things, that maybe you don't understand it, or maybe what you're going through isn't real as opposed to what they're going through.
Well, it's just, it's I don't think it's touchy, but when you're on the topic and you're going through your episode, or you're going through your moments, or whatever it is for you, it's real. So it's not like it's touchy, like you understand it, but not necessarily your interpretation, but your experience is different than mine. And so, but there's a lot of things that cross each other. There's a lot of things that look alike when it comes to some people with mental health. And I really, like I said, and a lot of us don't talk about it because we already feel crazy. We don't need, and we're already talking about it. And we're like, yeah, I'm a little, things happen to me. And so I don't want to go into detail because I don't want you to think that I'm completely crazy. Because, I mean, it's like when you talk about your experience when other people haven't experienced it, it's easy to be like, wow, that's not normal. And you're right, it's not normal. It's not. And in any face of the term, is it normal? Was that what I was going through? None of it was normal. And I don't know, because of that, I wanted to put it out there because I know that maybe there are a few people out there that will understand it. And I think I was listening to somebody talk about their what were they talking about? They were talking about something like I do what I do because I want to reach one person, and as long as I reach one person, I've done my duty. And I was like, oh, that's right. That's why we do what we do, because if I can reach one person with whatever it is I say and whatever it is that I share, and I'm talking about it, this just reaches that, whatever it is that I'm going to post or whatever it is that I'm saying reaches one person, and they think to themselves like, oh, that's not only me, and she got help. There's help out there for me, for somebody that might look similar to her. Okay. It doesn't even have to be that. It can just be like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, as long as somebody it resonates, as long as it
I guess somebody benefits from it.
Yeah, as long as somebody benefits from my story, then I've done my job.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So when is that coming out, or when are you going to put that out?
I don't know when this video is coming out, but by the time this video comes out, that will for sure have been already posted. Yeah.
So you can go to your IGTV and watch it.
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want. If you don't, it's okay. You can stay here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh wow, we're already 9 minutes in. So here we are. If you haven't seen this setup behind us, if you're looking at us on video, this does not look familiar at all to you. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast, go check us out on Facebook and come see us move our mouths and our faces and smile at you, wink a little. You'll know that we are not in the same setup that we usually are, which is usually right in Juan's office. He has a very beautiful denim couch that I bought on sale in Macy's, and we put it there, and that's where we started our podcast. But here, where we're at in this room here, is where I actually do my series called the Latina Leadership Series, in which I talk to different, what I consider very successful women of Latina origin. Is that a word? Latina origin? Latin origin? Hispanic origin?
Latinx, whatever, like terminology you want to use. Like
okay.
People, I guess whatever people want to self-identify as.
I don't even know what that means, Juan. Okay, so I get Latina women is where this is my setup. This is where I have a conversation with them. I pull up my little laptop and I start talking to them on this camera, and we have amazing conversations. And so if you've listened to the last episode, you would have heard me like go on and on and on about Juan's little notebook on a piece of paper where he started writing topic ideas. And I was like,
we're still going to do those topics. So
are we?
Yeah.
Get boring. Look, you can do them on your own.
No, we're still going to do those topics because I think, there's still going to be there's still some of them that we're going to pull out from there.
Okay, fine. I mean, I wouldn't mind them. I'm just saying that, like, if they like over the year, but definitely, but like back to back, I don't know, Juan.
So your point in saying that though was.
I don't hush and rush me through my
I'm not rushing
conversation.
you. No, I'm asking you because you got sidetracked when you said that you started saying about my list, and then I just said, "Oh, we're gonna record some of those." But you were saying that like yesterday, I was talking about, or not yesterday, but
This is how he rushes me through conversations. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that moment where he was like, and then?
because you were making a point, and then
I was making a point, but I was still making a point. Like I was still like, hello.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, well, like you took a dig at my,
Go ahead.
took a dig at my list, and then I was like, well, hold on, like before you take a dig at before you just throw my list completely away, I was just like, wait, we are going to record some from that list anyway.
Yeah, I know. We will. So, but on that list, there was again like gaslighting and masculine toxic masculinity. I don't know. The other episode that you listened to, this one here, there was a little leadership, Latina leadership, right?
So
that you had on there.
So what, on this one or what?
Hold on, my lip is like chapping and
You're
feel
like
funky.
throwing me off.
No, on your list, on the list that you had.
Oh, on my okay. So you're saying on the list that I had, one of the topics that I had listed was Latina leadership or Latina leaders.
What made you like post that there, or what made you write it down as part of the list?
I don't know, because I think that I think I just put it on the list because I thought, oh, it's a series that you're doing, and it's a series that that maybe we can talk about more in depth.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
that was the premise of it. Like I didn't like when I was doing the list. I didn't really have I didn't really like stop to be like, oh, I'm gonna go in depth. Like I didn't really have an in depth thought about every single topic I listed. I just listed topics.
But today, let's go ahead and dive deep. So, Latina leadership. It turns out that a lot hasn't been written about it. It's been kind of part of a conversation, but not fully. We see a lot of the conversations, so I've done some reading. I read people's dissertations. I read reports. I have read reports in which they have surveyed, I think, 500 Latina leaders or 500 Latinas over the course of a few years, and kind of revisited them again and started having the conversation with them again. Like, what are the struggles? How are you meeting your struggles? But that's basically as far as it got. Like there's a lot of reports, and there is a little bit of conversation. Like, how can you help? What can you do? Right? And a lot of it is, oh, well, bring up the topic. Okay. What happens after you bring up the topic? Right? And so when I was reading a lot of these reports, like I said, in these dissertations, I was like, there's really not a lot of information out there about Latinas and leadership.
But like, what type of information would you say would need to be out there?
Well, I think it should start at some point with who are they? Really seriously. So, for example, one of the things that I guess can become an issue, or if you consider it a problem, would be kind of the way we lead our personal lives, right? How kind of the roles. There's a lot of masculinity. There's a lot of machismo in our culture, and so because of that, a lot of the times we kind of have set roles, right? So a lot of this comes from like the whole nurture versus nature theory, right? The whole I guess nurture theory. It basically means that like you have a role and I have a role, and we really never really often deter from that role. Like you have a set role as a male and I have a set role as a female. In the culture, in Latino cultures and Hispanic cultures, that's kind of the way we're taught, right? It's very much instilled in religion, Christianity, and it's very much instilled in us. And so because of that, a lot of the women who come, also another thing is that we very much respect our elders. So that includes our grandparents and our parents. And we take a lot of what they say into consideration because we never want to be at odds with them. And so, and I understand that. I think I was like revolutionary, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm going against the grain, and not really. Like, even though my mother was a single mother, she was still raising me like, you take on the female wife's role, and that's where you should sustain. That's where you should be. But because of that, a lot of those home issues kind of spill into like your work life, your career life. A lot of workplaces don't understand why you're taking off a day of work to go take your mom to I was going to say to work, no, but like to the doctor, or why you would take off a day, or why you couldn't attend a workplace event on the weekend because you had to go to a cousin's wedding. Right? Like it's for us, it's a lot about family, and career for women usually comes secondary. And so a lot of workplaces don't understand that, and there is that stigma, that there is that thing where we're not given chances if you think you understand the culture. And how do we break from that? How do we break from that normality of like, okay, well, I do want to move forward in my career, but my family does matter to me. And so not only are we going through that process, but it's difficult to make your workplace understand that my culture is not my culture, but the culture might, affect my work, might affect my career. And so those kind of things that aren't talked about, those aren't normal conversations typically in a workplace life. But that's a place to start. That's part of the conversation. But here's one.
Like a place to start is what? In the workplace, talking about what the cultural norms are for Latinas?
Yeah, what culture norms would look like for Latinas.
I think the thing is that you can't really paint with you can't paint with one paintbrush, because I think that maybe for some Latinas that is the case, but maybe for others that's not necessarily the case.
True, very much true. Very.
Maybe some Latinas feel like, oh, you know what, like my family comes first, and in every decision that I make, my family comes first, and that's the way I live my life, and that's totally fine. But maybe other Latinas are in a different position, and they're like, you know what, my
mentality.
my career comes first, or I know what I need to do to progress in the way things function within the whatever business they're working in.
Yeah.
So in order to navigate that, then my family kind of has to take a back seat, and then there's still like cultural things that are gonna come into play. Like maybe grandma is taking care of the kids more, or maybe if another family member is like stepping in to help with the family.
But
at home.
When you think about work in terms of like the Hispanic or the Latino or the Mexican culture, you typically think like, oh, it's the male who pushes hard for his career.
Not really.
Traditionally.
I don't know. Like I feel like that. Like I feel like it's changing. Like
it is changing.
I feel like it's changed. So I think
it's definitely changing.
I think that's like a very old school way.
Mentality. It is
like an old school way of thinking. Like
you understand that this still affects Latinas today.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying like a lot of the I would say like a lot of the younger, especially younger Hispanic population probably
Women,
is not experiencing the same like situation.
But they're coming up because they have mothers who are like in their 50s and 60s, and these women are growing women are in their 25s and 30s, and so they're being met with that clash of like, oh, so when are you gonna get married? Are you gonna have kids? Like, this is all you're gonna do? You're gonna work? Like they're still being met with that. They're still being met with that resistance, and so that's part of the conversation, whether we like it or not, whether you see that or whether we think it's a turning time, and that might be true, in the future. I don't know, but today, here, now, that's the truth. And the idea is that we need to get Latina leaders into management and high positions now. So we need to have those conversations now. We can't wait another 20, 30 years, because in another 20 years, 30 years, Latinas are going to be behind again.
Well, I think to me, like, I don't know, like you're talking more the scholarly like aspect of it. I guess what I'm saying, like for me, I haven't read the same thing, so I really don't. I'm not coming from the same place.
I don't think that's scholarly. I think that's just. But no, you're right. I think I read it.
The thesis. You said you read a thesis or whatever. Like I haven't read those things, so I don't know where you're. Like I don't know exactly what you're referring to, because I haven't read those things.
Okay.
But the way I see things in terms of, like from my perspective, what I guess what I can speak to. And I think it goes, what I see, let's put it that way. What I see is Latina leadership in general. What I see is like a lot of times, when you hear about Latina leaders, like they're very far and few between, because
that is the
you're
truth.
talking about like Sonia Sotomayor, or you're talking about
It's the same
Dolores
names that come up
Huerta, or
every
you're
time.
talking about America Ferrera, you're talking about Eva Longoria, you're talking about people that are like celebrities, or who
Rosario Dawson, or you're talking about, or you celebrities, or specific celebrities who you think are in the forefront of those conversations, like Jennifer Lopez, Shakira. Like, you think of those,
so
and
you think of
and
like big names, and
you
those
do.
Are those are the big
That
names
everybody
that
knows.
that come to the front lines. And what I see is like when it comes to like local, or like more like people on boots on the ground, people that are living the day-to-day lives, and who would be leaders in their communities and leaders in their positions,
For trekking the paths,
like
yeah.
they don't get as much
Recognition.
I don't know if it's recognition. They don't get as big of a spotlight to be like, oh, you know what, like these are leaders, and these are people who should be like respected, and this and that.
Even in that space, Juan, if you think about it, think about what you're saying. But even in that space, even at a local level, it's still the same names.
Well, yeah, but like what I'm saying is like, even so there have been some platforms, like we've been in the digital space for 10 years or over 10 years, and like there have been some platforms where, you know, there was a space for Latinas, especially for Latinas, to like creators and Latinas who were like you know, a lot of times leaders in their own families, leaders in their communities, who were building things from the ground up. They were able to use social media, digital media, to create, you know, a name for themselves, a reputation for themselves. But what ended up happening, as is often the case, I think, with a lot of these like things that are like grassroots, is that eventually they become mainstream. And when they become mainstream,
because they're few and far between.
Yeah, when they become mainstream, like then they're like, you know, either they're sold or they're bought, or they're like, you know, somebody else like Matt takes over. And when that happens, then it goes back to the immediate course of action is like, okay, like we need to take this to another level. And how do you take it to another level? It's like you start bringing in the celebrities, you start bringing in the big names, and you start like, and so like more and more what you do is you
do as much of the same.
You put more of those people on top, and the people that, you know, kind of were the like we're actually the ones that were the engine behind this thing that had so much momentum. They're fallen to the wayside. And when they fall to the wayside, then it's like, then that's no longer a space for them.
But you hit the nail on the head at the beginning when you said they're few and far between, because it's true. And so when something does come up, and where there is a big like a big splash of something that's coming up, and it was Latina based, and it's Latina based, like Latina leaders pushing forward, and it's not recognizable names and all of that stuff, is that they're few and far between, not because they don't want to, but because they're met with a lot of obstacles. And so when those are brought up, people recognize it and immediately can sense it, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the thing that we need to uplift that. And so a lot of the surface things, a lot of the things at the bottom, where people are, where the movements are happening, right, where the chatter is taking place, where it's word by mouth, that kind of thing that happens at the bottom, we need a lot more of that happening. So how do we help that, right? And those are people who aren't in management positions. Those are people who are in entry-level positions, in like places and spaces like nonprofits, who can make a difference, who see how the engine runs, and who can make a difference within that organization. We need people at those levels.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is, like, if you can't even get the people in that mid-level that are like, who are maybe management, or who are like enterprising or entrepreneurial in their own sense, if they can't even hold on to the spaces that they created for themselves, like how can that transfer to you know, not below, but like how can that transfer to the next?
It's not transferring wave? That's the whole point, that it's not transferring. We don't need to transfer for management to lower or the space, like I said, where the chatter happens, where the movement happens. It's where it should be helped. And I feel like that's not what we're doing. If we start creating the leadership within those spaces, that's how it starts to rise. That's when people come in forces. That's when they come in crowds, right? So they come in crowds in those positions, those managers positions, that it no longer has to be like things need to be taken away. I mean, I don't know if that's a thing, like you can take away like the power of Latina leadership. It sometimes some people identify with it, and so people just want to like hold on to it and make it be viable, make it be something that can be more than entertainment, and it can be something that we can like relate to, right? So at that position, I feel like that's where the conversations aren't taking place, is who is actually helping at that level, who's actually doing those things. And like I said, part of those conversations take place within that. It's how your work life and your home life, that balance that's met between, because once you start meeting those balances, that's when you really start to engage with your workspace. That's when you start thinking, oh, like I can help. If the workplace is helping me and my management is helping me, I can help other people. And you know what? I can help other people who look and sound like me. Mm-hmm. And so,
well, I don't think it necessarily has to be management, and I don't think it has to be like a business, or like, I don't think it could be somebody who's starting their own business. It could be somebody who's like doing something like, I don't think you have to be in a corporate environment or like
you don't have to, definitely, for sure,
role to be a Latina leader. Mm-hmm. And I think that like before we go further, like I think that like there are naturally, Latinas are naturally leaders. Like your mom, your grandma, your like tia, like mm-hmm. they're naturally leaders. So I mean, I don't want to like dismiss that and be like, oh, or like look, or like not acknowledge that the fact that there are leaders already in the community, because
correct.
You know, you wouldn't be able to have Sonia Sotomayor, you wouldn't be able to have all these people if they didn't have Latina leadership in their own households, in their own homes, that didn't necessarily come from corporate America. They didn't necessarily have, you know, a degree from Yale or from mm-hmm. wherever the hell. Like, they didn't have any of that, mm-hmm. but they were naturally Latina leaders. So I think, you know, we should recognize that, you know, there are already natural leaders within the community. Latinas as a group are in general leaders. So
yeah. So okay. Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, you know, I think that to me, what the disconnect is probably like the access to like be able to get more resources, so that, you know, there's more of a I guess a pipeline of people that are then like.
You would think that it would just become it would just be resources that would help generate that. Mm-hmm. Not true.
Mm. Well, I mean, I think it's resources and it's a lot of other stuff. I don't think it's just resources, but I think the resources help. And like, because, you know, I think that you need, like, mm-hmm. you know, you do need some backing in terms of like having somebody that's going to have, or having some type of, it's like when you have the solidarity of like a bigger name, or you have the solidarity of having a bank that's going to lend you money so that you can grow your business to another level, or you can take whatever you're trying to do to a different, like, you still need part of the establishment to be able to grow and to move into bigger, more visible roles.
Yeah, there's definitely odds stacked up against Latinas to be able to move, like, even in the financial like aspect of things and in those terms. But mm-hmm. here's what I've learned with everything that I've was so far with the things that I read, because I haven't read everything that I wanted to. But you would think, right, resources that would help. But do you know that the biggest way that we can help Latinas elevate their leadership or put them in leadership positions is by simple things like so basic mentorships. Mm-hmm. To be able to get a loan, to be able to get a, what would you say? To be able to get, like, to be able to know how to even apply for a loan for your business if you're an entrepreneur, to be able to get to a position where you're at a high stakes position, right? You're calling the shots, like you're doing all the great things.
But who are the mentors?
Exactly.
Mentors are not necessarily going to have to be Latinas.
They don't have to be Latinas, and you're right. So that is just basic it.
That's where the establishment comes in.
Yes. But it's not resources. We're not talking about financial. Well, we're talking about manpower. Resources. We're talking about intellectual not manpower. Excuse the word. Forget the manpower. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the intellectual power of it.
Those are intellectual resources.
Correct. You're right. Intellectual resources is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. And simple things like that, like being able to identify leaders, or being able to identify somebody who has a great idea that can help your workplace and workspace, actually is going to amplify the organization, the corporate America. It's going to shift things. And by all means, and I've said this before, Latinas tend to be very emotional and like very emotionally intellectual. They have this emotional intelligence. People who are emotionally intelligent, who are in management positions, those companies tend to do better. Right? And so we already know that's already proven, that people who aren't just who are good at numbers, or who are good at sales pitches, but those who are good at emotional intelligence, when your management is emotional intelligent, like, and they know how to I guess emotional intelligence is a whole other topic, but in that space, like, the workplace does better. And so there's an avenue to take to be able to put these Latinas into those spaces by giving them the opportunity, by giving them mentors. But something like that, something so basic, by your company or your nonprofit or your organization being like, okay, who needs the mentorship? Who do we give the opportunity to? How do we do that? And explicitly do it by putting a Latina in that forefront, or by saying, you know what, I am the mentor of said person, and I'm going to help her get in a position that when she moves away, or she moves on, or she moves up higher in her positions, that she's going to be able to do more and more and more. And when she's there, she can help others. And sometimes we want to give the opportunity to the same people who we see in ourselves. I don't know what I did. I think I went on a rant. I'm not sure if I was being understood.
No, I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, but I think that, I think those things are important. And I don't mean but I mean, like, I understand what you're saying. Those things are important, but like, it's just a matter of speaking. But to me, I guess what I think is like, yeah, the resources are important, the mentorship are important, but I think beyond that, I guess it's like more about like giving people a space, like providing people a space, because it's not just about being mentored, but I think that's also about like being able to collaborate with the other people who are in your like same position, or who are coming up with you, or
those things come naturally after you're in that position.
Sometimes I think sometimes it's hard to find them, because I think like if you're not in an environment where you get to see, or where you get to access, if you've never had a mentor, you've never been able to access a mentor, like how do you go about finding one? And then just because you have a mentor doesn't mean that the people that you live in your community are automatically going to have mentors too, and that they're gonna understand what you're doing, or what you're like, where you're going with your like with even having a mentor, that there's no pushback. So I think it's not just like having a mentor, but it's also like, I think that's why to me, I think it's having a space, honestly. And I
think that's a mentality thing for us, Juan. We never think like, oh, I should probably seek a mentor. Our theory is always, I'm just gonna do it. I'm a panzazos. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna try to get it done.
Like, cause I've sought out mentors, and like I've sought out people to mentor me. I've sought out people to help me, like to like give me guidance, or to like I've seeked out to ask.
You ask advice. Questions.
Yeah, to ask.
But would you necessarily say that you have a mentor?
Not actively, but I have had mentors before. What?
I don't know.
Yeah, like I think I have had active mentors before, and I've asked them, like, hey, you know what? I know you have more experience than I do. I know you've been doing this longer than I have. So anything that you're able to impart on me, or anything you're able to share with me, that's what I want to learn.
Okay.
And I think that's like part of the process, is like being able to like say that and have that conversation. But I think it's not only that, like what I was saying is like, I think that the space is important too, because I think if you don't have a space that is...
When you say space, what do you mean by that? Okay, like a physical space, or like, what do you mean?
No, it's what I was referring to before. but I don't know if you understood what I was trying to say.
No, I understood what you're saying, but I'm trying to understand it.
I'll just use the example, and I don't know
Okay.
if you're gonna like it or not, but I'll just say it. Like, there's a group, and we were part of this group, and it was out of Miami, Hispanicize, and Hispanicize had like a big following.
Why wouldn't I like it then?
Well, because no, I'm just saying because I'm gonna say what I was, not use the example. I'm just gonna talk
Okay.
about what I was talking about, rather than use an example. So Hispanicize was a group, and they were around for a long time. We know the founders and everything else, and when it was in its peak, I would say, like, it was a community of influencers. It was a community of content creators, people who were all like us, who were doing their own thing. They weren't celebrities for the most part. They were people who, and
People who were in the race.
and the majority of them were Latinas. Like, I mean, I can attest to that because there were many conferences that I went to where I was one of like maybe 2 guys in the whole entire conference.
Okay.
A lot of the bloggers, the influencers there happened to be Latinas. And so when they sold this company, there was a shift almost immediately from the regular content creator to the celebrities. And when they shifted to the celebrities, whether it was a D-list celebrity or a C-list celebrity or A celebrity, whatever list celebrity that they switched to, guess who got pushed to the wayside?
Out of the equations.
Yeah, it was all those Latina leaders, all those Latina like creatives who had been in the digital space, who had
So
built
you
that
feel like
group.
the space had been taken from them?
Yeah, who had built this. The reason they wanted to buy this thing to begin with was because of the momentum behind it, and the momentum behind it were all the Latinas who had built and put the sweat equity and the energy and everything into building that. And so when that went away, when they made it more of a celebrity thing, then of course people were like, okay, well it's no longer for me, because I'm no longer represented there. That space is no longer mine. I don't know. I no longer have that space, because that was a collaborative space. That was a space that you went to every year, and you knew you were going to find your people, and you knew you were going to be able to collaborate. So I think when I say that spaces are taken away, like when you get to a point where like, you want to take this to the next level, like, and nothing against Hispanicize or the new owners or anything like that. Like, I don't have any beef with them, but I'm just saying, you can see it was pretty clear what happened. Like, as soon as it was like purchased and they wanted to take it to the next level, it was the celebrities that were brought in. But the celebrities don't need a platform because they already have it. So the people that end up losing are the people who aren't celebrities. And so I use that as an example. Another example that I think is like, this whole She Se Puede thing that came out. There was a lot of excitement about it. It was like America Ferrera and a bunch of other celebrities.
I like it.
Pseudo celebrities are out there. And I like it too. But
Okay.
what I haven't seen on there, which I hope is maybe in the works, which I hope is maybe in progress, I haven't seen the regular content creator featured. I've seen Kate del Castillo. I've seen Jessica Alba. I've seen other celebrities being featured and like highlighted for the things that they do, or celebrity influencers being featured for the things that
But
they
they
do.
haven't been out for so long, so maybe they still have an opportunity.
But now's the moment. Isn't that what we were having the conversation last time? We don't. Why wait? Why do we need to wait 6 months until they've like had a bunch of celebrities on there before they actually start having like real people on there? And so to me, that's a loss. That's a missed opportunity. And I know that maybe a lot of people aren't going to agree with me. Maybe a lot of people are going to like
Stop listening
talk
to
shit
us.
to me.
It's fine. Look, man.
But I'm just saying, like,
him.
to me, what I was excited when I first heard about that program with that thing, whatever. Like, I don't know if it's, I guess that movement. I was excited, and I still am excited because I think there still has potential. But what I would have wanted to see, and what I still hope I can see, is like the everyday, like, content creators that you and I know, and maybe the ones that we don't even know, who would be coming up on there, and you would say like, oh, so and so, from New York, from Texas, from Florida, started their blog and they're doing this and blah blah blah, and they're being like elevated. They're using that platform that's already amplified because of the celebrities who own it. They're being elevated to another level, not just like, oh, like now we have this platform and help us elevate the people who are already elevated.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And I'm like, that to me, that's kind of defeats the purpose. Then what are we really achieving other than like patting ourselves on the back? You're looking at me like
I'm trying to dissect what you're trying to say here. I partly understand and I partly agree with what you're saying. But a platform like that, that's just beginning, like I see the whole Hispanicized things. Like there was a bunch of creators the legendary creators who were on the space for so long and kind of were just let go as soon as it was like moved over, shifted to new owners. And it's unfortunate. Now it's become like a celebrity thing to do. And now I'm like, oh, that's not my space anymore. Yeah. I don't belong there anymore. But Si Se Puede, it's a little different for me because they started like backwards. They're using their celebrity status to create something where girls like me can go on. Girls like me can feel like I have a space now, feel like I want to be able to see myself in some of those creators that hopefully they bring along.
And that's the thing, like, yeah. And that's the good thing. But when are they going to start elevating those voices too?
Patience. I think it happens. It happens.
But I think that's part of the conversation we were having in one of the previous episodes where we were saying.
I mean, we're talking about a Si Se Puede movement that just started, like, I think a month ago or 2 months ago.
But how long ago do you think they started planning that?
I don't know.
It was months in the making before they started. I'm sure that they were planning.
We don't know. That. Let's be real. Let's be honest. We don't know because we're not like in the back. Like we're not in the back offices having these conversations with them. We're not there. But the idea for me, that's my understanding, is that the way they've expressed it and the way I've read it, because I've signed up to the newsletter, is that they're saying like, this is a platform for you. This is what we're going to start doing. And this is how we're going to use our like celebrity status, our our moment is now. And we're putting our name on the line, for the women, for the Latinas, and we're here for them, and we're here standing side by side with y'all. And I definitely understand that, but like I said, it's in its infancy. Like we're talking months. I mean, when you try in reverse of you have Hispanicized, we have years. That's years.
Yes,
that they built.
Hispanicized was founded by content creators too. So it wasn't a celebrity that started that. So that's why I think that was so successful, because it was a grassroots effort from the beginning. They had branding, they had a logo, they had a website, they had all these things. Their months went into planning that. That didn't just happen overnight.
You don't know.
From anybody who knows anything about branding and marketing can tell you that
some things are created overnight, and so we don't know how much time they had to do.
Well, that was poor planning. Then, if you did it overnight, that was poor planning.
Look, don't criticize something that you're not putting your sweat tears into it. So don't criticize something that you don't. Well, then don't sit here and say then it's poor planning, because you don't know.
But you have to be able to say like what, like yes, like yeah.
No, you don't know.
No, I don't know, but I'm saying like it is great that and hopefully those things do happen. But how often has it not been the case that all these things are promised, that we're going to do great things, we're going to be all about the community?
How do you get to a place where you start knocking down the thing that hasn't even happened yet? How do you get to a place where you're already like, how many times does how many times the girlfriend going to cheat on you when you understand that she's always going to cheat on you? Like no, like hold on.
Well, like that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
this is a space that has been created, and I have gone along with it because I believe in the messaging. I believe that this is the space for me, and and like I said, I will form an opinion when it's been time to form the opinion. There's no way that I can start. You see, like I can't do that right now because I don't know yet.
I had to do it, had to.
Hey, this is Anjelica Casares.
And this is Juan Alanis.
Thank you so much for joining us on season 2 of Juana Words Podcast. You can find us on
Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Stitcher, Spotify, and other platforms. Also on our website at juanawords.com. And we hope you enjoyed the episode that you're listening to right now.
And if you enjoyed it, you can leave us a review and a thumbs up. Especially on the Apple platform, the higher ratings and the reviews we get, the more listeners we actually can be found by.
Yeah. So it really does help us. So we really would appreciate it, a rating or a review on Apple Podcast. And until next time, thank you.
See you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
back up on your bullshit. Don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy. I don't like what I see.
I don't know where that cut off. So I was saying, like,
The moment is now.
I like, we've made our, like, this is my opinion, not our opinion. This is not your opinion. This is my opinion.
This is not Angelica's opinion. This is Juan's opinion that he's stating at this moment.
And I'm saying this, and
Okay.
I agree that it's a great platform. I agree that there's a lot of opportunity. I do believe that, you know, there are good intentions there, and I do, you know, think that, you know, that maybe the path forward hasn't been fully laid out yet. But having said that, what I also think is that there was planning that went into this, and there was time that had to have been spent, whether it was a week or whether it was 6 months, into planning what this platform was going to be. And I think in planning what the platform was going to be, I just think that there should have been more of an emphasis paid to where, you know, how present and how visible the everyday Latinas were going to be. That it wasn't just going to be the well-known, already established, because I think, yeah, it's important to have them included because they're going to help amplify it to a bigger audience. So yeah, for growing, it makes sense.
Because their
But why
audience
can't-
isn't just other Latinas. Their audience is the general market.
Right, but why can't you sprinkle in there some of the everyday Latinas? And I'm sure that given the people who are behind it, I'm sure that they already have like plans that I'm not even like thinking about.
Okay, yeah.
That they have like a lot of like
Correct.
really like probably cool things in the works. So now I'm not taking anything away from that, and I'm not trying to like dog them out and say like that they suck or they
I see what you're saying,
them.
but you're saying you're waiting for it.
I'm waiting for it, and I hope it does happen. And I just think that there's been a lot of other platforms similar to this that have promised things like, oh, you know, we're going to be the space for Latinas and blah, blah, blah. And then they're not. And so, you know, I think that the only reason I mention these examples is that's why I say space is important, because you need a space to be able to, like, you know, you need a community, you need like I guess a tribe, quote unquote, that's going to help you move up to that next level, to, you know, that's going to support you. And if you don't have that space, like if that space is pulled from under you, the rug is pulled from under you, no longer have that space, it makes it that much harder to then elevate.
Okay.
So again, my opinion,
Uh-huh.
my thoughts, and, you know, I'm saying them, but I'm not trying to dog anybody out, but I'm just sharing what I think.
It's Juan's opinion, not mine, again, like he said. But so yeah, so going back to Latina leadership. So what Latinas, rising Latina leaders need at the moment, very much so, is mentors. So if you are in the workplace and you see that you can potentially mentor, or you see somebody who has a potential in them, to be able to give them the opportunity or give them a project to see how well they do, how well they'll perform, not oversee them or overpass them. It's what you would probably tremendously help not only them but their family.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So,
and at the end of the day, I mean, like, a mentor can be anybody. Like,
yeah,
you can be
correct.
You can be a mentor to other people.
You can be you can be a Latino. You can be Caucasian male. You can be that of the Black community. You can be from any space and any walk of life. Mentoring a Latina is definitely needed and would be very much appreciated.
And you would be surprised, I think, that if you, like, when you ask for somebody to be your mentor, like, you would be surprised that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to do it that just have not been asked. And like, you know, the thing that you're doing with the Latina Leadership Series, I think that in itself is like creating a mentorship space, because you're creating conversations that other people can watch, and maybe somebody can benefit from watching those conversations. Like whether it's one person or whether it's a younger or teenage girl who's watching it and who's like, oh, you know, like I haven't had access to these Latinas, like people like this in the past.
It's so funny you say that, because I have used that platform and that space to be able to talk to these women that I've been wanting to talk to, and I've made this excuse to talk to them.
Yeah. Well, like one of the,
so it's already helping somebody. It's helping me, because I'm like, I just want to talk to you, because we have a pre-conversation, and then we definitely have like an after conversation where I feel like I get a lot more, and I'm like, I start to ask like questions where I'm like, how did you do this, or what do you think of that, or what do you think of this? And it's things that we don't record, but I have benefited from it, and I do it wholeheartedly because I feel like it's a space that I want to see happen. I'm doing it because I want to see it happen. And I when I was reading things, I was only thinking like, no, the reason that we don't upcome, it's because Latinos want to put us in our place. Like our male counterpartners want to put us in our place. And I'm like, oh, okay, that might be true for some, maybe few and far between. I'm not really sure. But then I was like, oh,
It's a whole system. It's not just
it's a whole system. It is.
It's not your spouse. It's not your like it's not like it's an entire system.
Yeah.
And I think everybody that you've talked to has been impressive. But I think the person that I was really impressed with, that really like based on, because I guess I think I had a preconceived notion of like how she was going to be, and the way she was completely different. Like Cindy Garza Roberts, who's with Comcast, and she's very polished and she's very put together, and she's been in the corporate environment for a very long time.
She sat back and talked to me.
When you like, sometimes when you see somebody like that, you think that they're not going to like, like to, I guess to use I guess an expression is like you don't think they're gonna let their hair down and like just kick back and be like
like, she definitely sat back and just talked to me.
And she just talked, and then the other thing was that she shared like a lot of like things about like
Personal?
like she was very honest. She said, you know what? Yeah, it was hard for me as a Latina to be able to move up in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And she was honest about that. And I was like, oh, I thought she was going to have like a very PR like answer, like, well, I made the best of it because of that. No, she like actually like was honest and had honest answers. And I was like, oh, like, you wouldn't think that because and I think sometimes there's a level of intimidation, like obviously because like we like thought that because of who she was in the position that she has, that maybe she was going to be like more standoffish and she wasn't going to be willing to like have an honest conversation. And so I think when you think about like mentorships, like she even said about mentorships. She said,
brought it up.
And I think one of the things that that impressed me that she said was like like we're part of we know that you guys are the next generation. She was telling you, like, we know that you're the next generation. And, like, other Latinas like you are the next generation. So, our job is to help you, like, to help you guys and to help you guys navigate and to help you guys get to that next level. And so that's, like, oh, like, that's really important. Like, that for somebody, like, to not be so... Just for people, instead of people being like, oh no, this is mine, or I'm not going to give it to you, or I'm not going to like, you're not going to take me off of this leadership position, to be like, no, you know what, this is what I've been able to achieve this so much in my career. I still have things to achieve, but you know what, the next generation, I see the energy, I see the hunger, and I think that they can go further. And to be willing to help them. So like for me, like that, she was really impressive because of that.
Yeah, I definitely, that's the first time I had ever spoken to her, like outside of like just like introducing myself over and over and hope she remembers my name. I'm sure she probably did, but I just would, how you introduce yourself because, like, the things that they have done, and you feel like maybe if I breathe the same air, maybe it can help me too. Well, this is one of the people that like when you walk into like any gala, any major fundraiser, like people are like, oh, do you know Cindy? Like, have you talked to Cindy? Like, there's that Cindy over there. Like, people are like pointing her out because she's like somebody who's like well known in the community, who's well connected. Because she's made difference, because she's done things to make the difference. Yeah, for sure. So, she's very like, so sometimes you feel like those people may not be approachable because of who they are, because of they have such a strong reputation that you may feel like, oh, they're not gonna want to talk to me. So all you can do is hi. But even like, I'm not a Latina, and I thought her inspiring. Like, I found her like, I thought you were gonna say I found her intimidating. I haven't found her intimidating before too, but no, like, but I found she's approachable. Yeah, she's approachable, and she's always been perfectly nice every time we've seen her. We've talked to her before this, and I think that. But it was inspiring to hear her, and some of her words were inspiring to me, even though I'm not a Latina. So I can imagine that for other Latinas, like that, it would be even more inspiring to see somebody that represents you and your culture, and who acknowledges their culture, and who like says, yes, I'm a Latina, and I have my parents, and we have we do all these things with our cultura and blah blah blah. She acknowledges that. But I'm also the lady who's at the forefront of this company, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Yeah. So it was an interesting conversation. I definitely, I'm excited to edit that one. Yeah. That one should come after this episode. Yeah. At some point. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was a really great topic for us to talk about, simply because it's been it's been at the forefront for me for such a long time that I'm trying to navigate that. And I thought, why not use this podcast? What am I saying? Why not use this podcast to talk about Latina leadership? Because I am Latina.
Yeah.
I can't help but to be Latina. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. Awesome. So I did you like the conversation? What did you think?
I think I like it. I hope
you
that
learn
people
anything?
I hope that people can make something out of it, because I think we were kind of veering off a little bit, like back and forth and navigating. But I think we tend to do that, and somehow we always end up coming back to something at the end.
We do. But did you learn anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned that.
Watching me do these interviews, and me talk to them, what have you gained from it?
Well, I mean, I think I've gained that is like, just hearing everybody's experiences and like how, I think the common thread, I think, is the Latina thing. Because sometimes you hear like, oh, Latinas are the decision makers. Latinas have the buying power. Latinas this, Latinas that. And
no,
like,
you know what I'm so tired of hearing? Like, oh, they're so catty. Oh, they're so this, or they're so, they have so much attitude. Hold on.
Latinas.
yeah, they got so much attitude. Like you can't tell them anything. Okay.
But no, I think to me, like the common thread, I think, has been like that, because you've talked to a lot of Latinas from different walks of life, from different, they grew up from different backgrounds,
and they have been an array of Latinas. It has been like from all sorts of like spaces and areas, and I was like, I want a big array. Like I'm still talking to a few of them, and I wanted that big like difference of like here and there, and they came from there, and they did this and they did that. This was their upbringing, and that was their upbringing. Like I wanted to bring a variety.
Well, I think the thing is like I knew culture was going to be a big factor in what y'all talked about and how it impacted their lives. I just didn't realize like how important of a factor culture was going to be, and how important of a factor like it was going to be in terms of the traditions and the norms of like not only like not necessarily in their careers, but more in their personal lives and more in their like family lives and their parents and this and that. How much culture plays into like decisions and lifestyles and I just. And I think as being a part of the culture, you get it. It's not even a thought, but I think somebody outside of the culture might be like, wait, what? Why did you do that?
Yeah, but people like, for example, a person like you who is part of our culture, like I can see you benefiting from those conversations because you see it as your way. You know what I mean? But when you have not just your wife talking about it, you have these other Latinas who've held like different positions or who come from different areas and who are kind of telling you the same thing. You start to think to yourself like,
yeah. And I think a lot of them have said, my culture has been my like superpower, or like my like that has been part of my superpower is knowing who I am, understanding who I am, being confident in who I am, and using that to my benefit.
Yeah.
Or, leveraging that in a way that has helped me throughout my career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sometimes that, it's easy to like feel that, maybe your culture is what makes you different. So maybe it's not the thing that you should be like focusing on. But I think
for some it has been.
In these conversations, it's been more like, no, like my culture is what makes me different, and it's what makes me stronger.
Yeah.
And that is like, like that's inspiring to, anybody. I think for me too, like to be like, oh yeah, like, cause, I think in any environment, like I've been in a position where I was like, oh, well, maybe I should tone down my, my Latino-ness. I should like tone it down so I can fit in. And it's like, no, you don't have to tone it down.
Yeah.
You just have to like walk in it and be like, this is part of me. This is
be present in it. Yeah. So I very much enjoyed the conversation, Juan.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and the Latina leadership is still taking on. I thought I was going to do it just for the month of the Hispanic Heritage Month. I decided, you know what? Let's push it to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Or at least to the end of November.
You may keep it going after that, because I
might, yeah.
Depending on the conversations, because there's a lot.
I want to talk to, and I want to move beyond only Latinas, but I definitely want to move to females, in general. But I do want to stick. I want the powerhouse to be where it's at the moment. I do want to keep talking to other Latinas, and then we'll go from there. Because there is other powerhouse women that have changed my life immensely, who are, who come from other walks of life, and they've like helped me, you know what I mean, in different points of my life, even like in middle school. And I want to talk about all of that also, but like I said, this is where it's at right now, and then from there we'll move. But so yeah. We've come to the end. I keep trying to dismiss this. We're sticking around longer. Yeah, all right. I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
Okay, well, cool. Well, if you haven't checked out the Latina Leadership Series, it is on Anjelica's Instagram account, which is
Crafty Thrifter.
Crafty Thrifter on Instagram, and you can follow all the videos there on our IGTV. And you've reached the end of the podcast, like you said. You can try to end it, but thank you for listening. Before we go, I do want to ask if you've enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed previous shows, leave us a comment and a review on Apple Podcasts. We would greatly appreciate it. I always ask this because it helps us to be found by more people. And the more people that we find, the more voices.
The more people that we find.
Yeah, that find us. The more people that find us, the more people who we can reach, and the more people we can,
the more the more people that like talk to us online, the more we find like other topics and interesting things to conversate about. Otherwise, you're just gonna hear us fight all the time.
No, and this is about creating space. I mean, we're doing like we were talking about space earlier. This is about creating space, and I think part of the work of creating space is like asking your community, asking people to say like, hey, help us create this space. And so we're asking you to help us create this space.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching.
And with that,
we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.